Welcome in everybody. Win Daily Sports MLB DFS show. You know it's the early lock show. As always, got a little treat tonight. You got Tony, you got Adam. It's not Jason, it's Tony. I'm taking his place. He's having some fun. Me and Adam are gonna have some fun here for this 12-game slate tonight. It's Friday. Get the weekend started. A lot of interesting things this weekend. Going to be some double headers. Got some 5-game series, but we're more focused on who are going to be these pitchers. There's a lot of pitchers on the slate. We're going to narrow it down. Adam, ace of the slate tonight for Friday, June 17th. Who do we got?
So I would expect this to be the popular route, but I don't particularly care. There's a ton of name value on this slate, right?
Yep.
You have Kershaw, you have Pablo Lopez, you have Giolito, Carrasco, you have all these guys at the top, and that's all good. But Carlos Rodon is under 10K. He's against the Pirates. I expect him to be the most popular pitcher in this range. I really can't argue it. I mean, when you look at Rodon, he kind of got back to the good side after a few rough starts there. There's been some rumors that O'Neal Cruz could make his debut sometime this weekend. You know, the longer we go, it doesn't seem likely it's coming on Friday night. So when we look at Rodon, man, he's thrown his fastball almost 64% of the time. He's got 52 strikeouts, and it's gotten hit a little bit, but Pittsburgh is only 17th against that pitch this year. It's just not a good matchup for them whatsoever from the left side. And the fact that Rodon is under 5 digits, which usually isn't the case, I think he's got the easiest matchup on paper, and I expect the field to reflect that.
I love Rodon. I mean, the K potential is always going to be there. And against, no disrespect to you, Adam, but against the Pittsburgh Pirates, who aren't a very good team right now.
Well, face it, even if O'Neal Cruz gets here, that's one guy. There's still a lot of holes in this lineup. Has a Cruz that could be making one of his debuts of at least this season, and then Brian Reynolds, because after that it gets dicey pretty quick.
Yeah, no, you're right. And listen, we talked about this. It wasn't me or you. I talked about this on Heat Ratio Live about coaches that maybe we'd want to bring back. And I mentioned in Philadelphia, man, I would, crazy as it sounds, I'd love to have Gabe Kapler back. This guy, as much as we all mocked him at him, I mean, he's out there in San Francisco and he's just doing his thing, man, with guys. I mean, how many times have we said name 5 guys on the San Francisco Giants, right?
I mean, it was like that last year, man. Like,
yep.
You look at the Dodgers, and they just have like all these all-stars up and down their lineup, and just Titanic sized payroll and all this stuff. And then you're looking at the Giants, who just went punch for punch with them the entire year. To like, who the hell even plays for San Francisco? No disrespect, Brian. I know you're a big Giants fan, but that's just what they do. They're like the Cardinals. They might not always have the most star power, but man, something about just putting on that uniform, there's some type of black magic they got going. You're just a good baseball player when you wear those uniforms. Some teams are just like that.
Yeah, they really are. Hey, listen, the guys love playing for Gabe. I mean, as simple as that. And he rallies them together. So shout out to him for doing what he does. And he's a different, quirky kind of manager. But hey, it works. Speaking of quirky, you mentioned about all these name recognition aces, guys that we look at, but what about maybe a guy that we're not looking at, or maybe not necessarily a pump pitcher, but a value pitcher, or somebody that may not be chalk that we can add on this slate to give us some really good value?
So it's another guy I kind of expect to be chalk, but it's one of those spots where I almost don't care. I know it's a big slate, but Frankie Montas is 8,300. Like, I can hear ghosts screaming from Canada already that Frankie Montas is 8,300 against the Royals at home, and that just shouldn't be the case. I know he's coming off a bad start against the Guardians. It happens. Cleveland can be a very, very pesky offense, but you look at Montas this year; he's been much better at home. For whatever reason, he only has 19 innings pitched on the road. It's kind of an oddity. He's pitched the vast majority of the season in Oakland, but they're in Oakland tonight. And through those 57 2/3 innings, it's a 2.81 ERA. Both sides of the plate have at least a 22% strikeout. The xFIPs are under 340. His splitter has just been working all season long, and he's putting together one of his best campaigns. It's probably a good time for him because there's a pretty good chance he's going to get moved before the end of the season, and somebody's going to be really lucky to add him to the rotation.
No, you're right. Another Oakland pitcher moved. I mean, come on. It's like it's the norm, right? Another team that just drafts really well and homegrowns their own talent and it's able to get some value from them. So, really not surprised. I will say one thing, Adam, and I don't know what you think about this, but this is as being inside the city. Obviously, I'm a Philly guy, but Bailey Falter makes a start tomorrow night, and I get it, right? This is a guy who's going from bullpen guy, starter guy. He's worked exclusively out of the starter realm out in Lehigh Valley, and he's facing a team that's just not very good right now in Washington. And listen, you can go on DK right now. You can pull it up. You see what he's done in AAA over his last five, a 1.54 ERA, 0.69 WHIP. 0.69 is elite, okay? And striking out 33.7% of the batters he faced. I say this because, again, this is the eye test. This is a team right now in the Phillies that are playing with a new kind of energy, with a new kind of culture. And when you're playing a bad team and you get a guy like this comes up for first start, usually it works out well. And for 6,000, Adam, I think this is a guy you might possibly be able to take a shot on.
So the good thing is he is only 6,000 because the Nationals have the best strikeout rate against lefties in the league. It's only 17.5%. It's not necessarily a team that we target with pitching because decay is king. But at 6 grand for your SP2, you don't have to get 8 strikeouts here. You know what I mean? Like that price doesn't demand he goes out and he just whips everybody in sight. So I can see him working. And the other thing is, this is going to be the second game of the doubleheader. You don't know what kind of lineup there's going to be.
Great
Juan
point.
Soto, he played Thursday night, but he sat the 2 previous games ahead of that. Don't be surprised if they hold him out of one here if that knee's still a little bit banged up. Maybe Nelson Cruz sits. That's a big dangerous bat against lefties. So I'm not fully on board yet, but keep an eye on what this Washington lineup turns out to be, and it could be a very different story. Come an hour before lock.
That's a great point. 100%. Because listen, it's a 5 game series. It's the second game of doubleheader. You just never know what the line's going to look at. You don't need 25 points at 6 grand. Now, if you do go a $6,000 pitcher like we're talking about, that just means you're going to get more power in your lineup, more bats. So, what's the stack for tonight that we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, Mad Bum is on the mound, so that means I'm definitely looking at hitters against him. The 350 ERA and the 489 xFIP don't match. Like, something's got to give sooner or later. He's turning into, if you've been with us for a while, Brian used to chase John Lester just every fifth day
Yeah, he
because the
did. I
ERA,
remember that.
the ERA was like almost always like 2 runs under the xFIP, and he just seemed to wiggle off the hook a lot of times, but Bumgarner's kind of being that same way right now. Both sides of the plate have a 325 WOBA or higher. He's actually been a little bit worse to lefties. So, yeah, you're going to want the righties. You want Gary Sanchez. You want Carlos Correa, Buxton, Urshela. Jose Miranda has a nice over 200. Kyle Garlick has an outside chance to be back off the IL. He's only had a couple rehab games. You'll kind of see where he's at. If he's in the lineup, he's a super cheap option. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, this whole
Love
lineup
him.
is just filled. And especially with the fact that Bumgarner is worse to lefties, if Garlick's not in that lineup, Lawrence probably is. And at 2,700, I mean, I have to assume nobody's going to play him lefty versus lefty. And there's really no reason not to. 2,600. I mean, man, you can't get a much better outfielder than that.
No, listen, he's my FFVP, and the reason why
Yeah, that's
is
funny.
right. Well, here's the thing. Just let's look at this collectively. He's a guy who doesn't play every day. He already has 2 home runs in June, and he's facing a guy, Maybaum, who's given up 7 home runs in his last 5 games. I mean, this guy is a home run machine on the other end, right? So, I just think it's a great, absolute good spot for the Minnesota Twins as a whole, but especially a guy like Trevor Lawrence. What about another team, maybe a value snack, a sneaky stack, maybe a team people aren't looking at for this game tonight?
So there's two ways to go here, and it's actually in the same game. On the Seattle Mariners side, you're going to get some cheap bats because you want lefties against Michael Lorenzen. He does not control the left side very well. It's a 372 WOBA. The xFIP's over 5. So you absolutely want left side of the plate. You're looking at guys. JP Crawford's probably the only really expensive guy, and even he's only 4,400. But Cal Raleigh, Adam Frazier, I know Jesse Winker's been really bad, but it's 4,300. You know, he can still do damage. Taylor Trammell, all these guys that are in this Seattle lineup, and they're pretty affordable. But then on the same side or same game, I wonder how many people would go to full on stack the Angels against Robbie Ray, because we know Robbie Ray has strikeout upside, right? And the Angels strike out a lot, but they also hit for a lot of power. And you look at the top of this lineup, if Anthony Rendon's back, you're going to have Ohtani, Mike Trout, Taylor Ward, possibly Rendon. Robbie Ray's given up over a home run and a half per nine to each side of the plate here. So especially if everyone just kind of looks at Robbie Ray and goes, okay, I don't want to pitch him, but I don't really want to stack against him, and we get the Angels at kind of a low percentage, that's the kind of stack that I'd be willing to take that chance on if I'm playing a guy like Falter for only 6K, because now I can fit in Ohtani. Now I can fit in Mike Trout. And those guys have all the power in the world to take Robbie Ray out of the yard.
That's a good point. I mean, listen, we talked about the Angels at the beginning of the year. They kind of floundered a little bit. They get Joe Madden out of there, right? Which is
Mohawk
just like
Madden.
right. I'm telling you, man. And then all of a sudden, Mike Trout starts to play a little bit, right? You know, so again, that team can catch fire at any given time. So I think it's a really good point, especially, you know, with the tendencies that Robbie Ray has had with the power slot. So I mean, definitely a good point.
He's
Now,
either walking somebody, striking them out, or giving up a home run. He's a three outcomes pitcher.
yeah, yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yeah, I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. And speaking of that, I mean, and any other before we get out of here, it's a 12 game slate. Like you said, there's a lot of pitching up here, but just a lot of names. Could be the same as the bats. Any other, you know, word of advice to anybody out there playing tonight?
So really, the last thing I'll point out is Gabriel Moreno is still only 2,500 for the Blue Jays. I would assume he's going to be back in the lineups, hitting 333. You know, everything was kind of expected of him. DK is just not adjusting that price quick enough. And catcher is an easy spot to punt, man. 2,500. Even if like you're not playing a giant J stack or something, that's an easy one to punt. I mean, he might not have the most power you ever want, but I mean, he doesn't need to hit one out to hit, you know, 10, 14 DK points and 2,500. If you're getting 7, you're going to be in good shape.
That's that cash point. You got to get that 7. You get that 7 for 2,000, 2,500. You are absolutely going home free. But as always, everybody checking in. We appreciate it. Everybody watching. Numbers are up. Subscriptions are up. It's a good thing. That means everybody's liking what we do. So we appreciate that at Win Daily Sports on all social formats. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're listening to the podcast as well. Leave a review if you would like. Get us in the comments. As always, you're going to see me and Adam. We'll actually hear me and Adam on Saturday and Sunday when we do the 5 and 5. Everybody seems to like that, so we get it easy, right, Adam? I mean, listen, who's got time on the weekend? Who's got time on the weekend? I know I ain't got no time on the weekend, right? So
5 minutes in and out, boys.
Yes, 5 minutes, man. 5 minutes in and out. Sometimes, like maybe if it's extra important, we're like 5 minutes of 40 seconds, but that's okay. We still get you in and out with ease. So look for that on Saturday and Sunday. And everybody have a great night and be profitable. And we'll catch you on the other side.